Good afternoon. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers of this conference for inviting me to this prestigious Hong Kong event. I would be speaking on intraductal biliary interventions, the current status. I would be covering the following aspects in my talk: cholangioscopes, its diagnostic use for visualization and taking biopsy, and therapeutic use of cholangioscope, be it stone removal or ablations. We all know cholangioscopy has evolved over a period of last few decades, and it is now classified as two main varieties: per-oral cholangioscopy and percutaneous cholangioscopy, which goes through the liver and called transhepatic as well. In the per-oral cholangioscopy, it can be the two-operator system or a single operator system. In the two-operator system, the common guardian that we use is the mother and baby scope, which has been there for more than 25 years. Whereas single operator cholangioscopy, the commonest example in this category is a spyglass cholangioscopy, and the other categories are direct per-oral cholangioscopy using slim scope. Let's touch upon all of them one by one. In mother and baby scope, as the name suggests, the mother is the duodenoscope with a therapeutic channel of 4.2, through which a baby scope, which has a 3.4 millimeter channel diameter scope, goes through like an accessory and can be passed inside the bile duct like any other instrument. It has a 1.2 millimeter diameter from which the various accessories of wires or fine biopsy forceps can go it. So it requires two endoscopists to control the system, one for the mother and one for the baby, and the slim scope has a very narrow working channel through which the accessories pass. But it's currently out of favor, although it gives phenomenal images. Is basically it requires two expert endoscopists, which is not easy to get all the time. Let me show an example of a patient who has a bile duct stricture where a baby scope is passed. It's cannulated just like any other accessories using elevator and up-down knob, which is available on this scope, to reach in the bile duct stricturous area, and by pressing the button, since the electronic scope, electronic video scope, you can get the narrowband imaging view as well, and very fine biopsy forceps can be passed and you can take biopsies. But just the visualization itself suggests that this is likely to be malignant. So in spite of giving a good quality images and NBI facility, the disadvantage is it's a high operating cost. The baby scope is fragile. It requires two skilled endoscopists. It has a limited two-way deflection of the tip, and it has suboptimal irrigation facility. Moving forward to the next variety of cholangioscope, which is a single operator cholangioscopy, let's touch the ultra slim scopes or the direct per oral cholangioscopy. Here we use a nasal scope or a slim scope of 5.4 millimeter diameter, but this has a bigger accessory channel of 2.2. This scope can be directly passed inside the bile duct provided the sphincterotomy has been done, preferably large, or a balloon sphincteroplasty has been done to allow the scope to be passed inside. So it's a freehand technique by which the scope is negotiated across the duodenum second part into the papilla and inside the bile duct. The advantage of this is that it provides good image, NBI is available, 2.2 channel diameters, accessories can pass out easily, there is no separate cholangioscopic platform like spyglass, and it has a four-way tip movement, plus suction is available. But the major disadvantage is the technical aspects associated with it. For example, gastric looping, difficult bile duct cannulation, it's not successful in all cases, and instability of the scope. The scope is likely to fall down into the duodenum, and then we have to sometimes use, or often we have to use a balloon which is inflated at the hilum over a guide wire, and then this scope is passed over it. Plus we need a relatively wide diameter CBD for the scope to be accommodated inside the bile duct. Nevertheless, if it's passed inside, you get beautiful images and you get good biopsy pieces and you can obtain the diagnosis. Another novel scope in this category is a double bend or a multi-bend scope, which has two bending sections at the tip about 5 centimeters apart, which allows the stability of the scope, but again it needs a guide wire and the balloon to ascend inside the bile duct, and rest of the principle remains the same. Moving forward, the most commonly used cholangioscopic system is a spyglass cholangioscopy, which is a 10 French catheter-based system. It has 4 directions to be steered. It has 4 lumens to allow irrigation and passage of accessories. It has a accessory channel of 1.2, an independent irrigation channel, and it is a single-use device. It can be passed either over the guide wire like a catheter or by freehand technique if an expert is available and the sphincterotomy is wide enough to allow this catheter to be passed inside. It is a very useful plug-in and play setup which is very efficient and quick to start off with. But the major disadvantage apart from all these advantages is the cost. It's a disposable equipment which magnifies the cost, and the risk of cholangitis, especially evaluating the hilar strictures, because you keep irrigating and that fluid can accumulate in the undrained segment which can cause cholangitis. So the major applications of cholangioscopes are 2 ways. One is diagnostic cholangioscopy for characterization of indeterminate biliary stricture and visualization of the extent of cholangiocarcinomas if it is being used for that indication. The therapeutic nature of this cholangioscope is mainly for treating of difficult bile duct stones by intraductal lithotripsy and in palliative indications of cholangiocarcinomas. There are some novel indications which are emerging recently, which we can discuss later on. Among the diagnostic cholangioscopy, currently we use relying upon ERCP and the fluoroscopic image to tell us whether the likely stricture is benign or malignant. Plus, in addition, we have other imaging like CT scan, MRI and PET scan to tell us whether the likely stricture in a patient is malignant or not. But appearances can be deceptive, and these indeterminate biliary strictures are labeled so if the cross-sectional imaging is unrevealing or if the previous biopsy ERCP with brush cytology has not given us an answer, which can occur in about 50% of the patients, as brush cytology yield is quite dismal. Also, we know that 20% of the patients are having biliary strictures are indeterminate. That means in spite of all these efforts of imaging and brush cytology obtained, we are not able to get the diagnosis. So it leads to repeated investigations which delays the implementation of appropriate care, causing cost implications and frustration both to the patient and the physician. Also, patients who undergo surgery presuming it was a malignancy, 1/4 of them turn out to be benign indication. And this is a big surgery. So if we can avoid these unnecessary surgeries, it would be quite useful. And that's where the role of cholangioscopy comes in. Just by direct visualizations, we are able to discern whether the stricture is likely to be malignant or benign. Plus, that abnormally you can take a targeted tissue acquisition. Also, you can delineate the margins of the tumor, which may be slightly more than what is seen on fluoroscopy at ERCP. Now, how do you differentiate just by visualization? The malignant stricture would have irregular dilated and tortuous vessels. They have papillary or villous projections. They can have nodularity or mass. Whereas a benign stricture will have a smooth surface without neovascularization. Also, they will have a homogeneous granular mucosa without a mass. So these features will tell us what is the likely stricture to be just by visibility. As you can see it here, the stricture on the left where the pass the spyglass, and you can see a projection with irregular strictures and a lot of tortuous vessels, and so on the right part of the image you can see this projection on one wall which is very suggestive of malignancies, and the biopsies can be targeted to the area. Under fluoroscopy, if you take blind biopsies, you may not be hitting the stricture proper, especially if it is on one wall and not the other side. Also, you can get surprises, like on the left side of the screen, that video that you're seeing, this turned out a patient had a polypoidal single lesion which was very mimicking like a cholangiocarcinoma. We took a biopsy and placed a plastic stent. Luckily, it turned out to be a lymphoma, and he underwent chemotherapy, and following which his stricture totally disappeared and the stent spontaneously migrated out. On the right, a common problem that we face in India, we can sometimes have this atypical presentations of cholangitis because of a lymph node which has ruptured into the bile duct. As you can see it here, the pus is pouring out inside the CBD. The advantage of just visualization under cholangioscopy is you get good intrinsic biliary pathology visibility, which gives almost 85% accuracy. But the limitations are the extrinsic compressions, for example, pancreatic cancer or gallbladder or metastatic disease, they can be misinterpreted. And that's why yield is higher for intrinsic lesion versus extrinsic lesions. Also, some of the ductal disease which are benign, for example, PSC or autoimmune cholangiopathy, can have irregular vascular patterns and can mimic a malignancy. And that's why just visualization is not complete. We need to take targeted biopsies or directed biopsies under cholangioscopy. And the sensitivity of this is very high, up 70 to 100%, and the specificity is also so. So any indeterminate strictures not only see it, but also targeted biopsy will give an answer. And this mini biopsy forceps versus standard brushings have an added advantage. They are far superior compared to brush cytology, as you can see on the screen. Also, the meta-analysis have showed that the accuracy of cholangioscopic targeted biopsies gives a very high accuracy of 79%, good sensitivity, and a very high specificity. Also, multiple biopsies are required to increase the diagnostic yield, and which allows high sensitivity and specificity. At least 3 biopsies should be taken. And this is a recent publication which has come from our colleagues from AIG and German co-authors, and also from Hong Kong, where digital single operator cholangioscopy guided biopsy versus ERCP guided brushings in a randomized prospective multicenter trial showed it is safe and effective to do cholangioscopic biopsy with high sensitivity and good visual and histological diagnosis. Moving forward to therapeutic cholangioscopy, the difficult stones are defined based on the stone factors and anatomical variants, and each has its own reasons for it to address. We can break the stones inside the bile duct either by laser lithotripsy or by EHL, as you can see on the screen. The 2 videos are playing. One on the left is EHL and on the right is laser lithotripsy. The right one the stone looks small, but it has a narrow CBD, and that's why this was not able to pull out. So we had to break the stones inside the duct. And this is quite a gratifying experience. So cholangioscopy and extrahepatic stones has decreased the need. If we break the stones inside the duct, it has reduced the need for mechanical lithotripsy. This has been shown with a legacy system, which was a previous non-video, non-electronic version. And RCTs have shown that cholangioscopy guided laser lithotripsy is much superior to conventional therapy. The recent multi-center retrospective study also showed that the clearance rate of the stones is about 90% plus. However, only 40% could be cleared in first session, and that's the little drawback, that it's a labor-intensive procedure, and sometimes we need to do it many times over. On average, 3 procedures are required in this study. Larger studies have also shown similar results of 97% clone clearance over many sessions, and ultra-slim scopes have also showed comparable results. Recent meta-analysis of these 31 prospective and retrospective studies have also shown a pooled stone clearance rate of nearing 90%. This is a recent publication in 2020, which showed that the clearance rate is about 2/3 using laser lithotripsy through spyglass, and laser lithotripsy is as good as EHL. Sometimes we find surprises in cholangioscopy, as you can see it here. This was a patient who had a cholangiocarcinoma and a stent inside which was blocked. And at the time of stent exchange, we found something filling defect, and this was an ascaris which had to be dragged out using a mini forceps, and then using a balloon. When the worm came below the stricture, it was dragged out. Ablative therapies are another area of interest, where radiofrequency ablation and both and photodynamic therapy have been recommended to use cholangioscopy. For PDT, we need cholangioscopy to give laser there to kill the tumor cells, whereas for RFA, we may or may not require a cholangioscopy. This is a video which shows a stricture where cholangioscopy has been done, and post RFA, you can actually cross the stricture with the same scope. PDT and RFA have got equal results in comparable survival, but PDT is much more complicated logistically and RFA is much more simpler. In conclusion, I would like to sum up by saying that cholangioscopy has revolutionized biliary endoscopy. There are several cholangioscopy systems available. The single operator cholangioscopy system by Spyglass is the most widely available and used. They are user friendly and efficient. They are used to do direct visualization of the stricture of pathologies and get tissue acquisitions. And through cholangioscopy, directed therapies can be done for stone clearance and RFA and so on and so forth. Thank you very much for your kind attention.